Morning, y'all. In this video we are going to change the oil in this generator and also get it to run again because they put ethanol gas in it and let it sit out for a year. And we're also going to change the oil and service my wife's 2020 Chevy Silverado. But the only thing is, both of those things happened yesterday. And while I did manage to film the 2020 Colorado oil change, which will be the second half of this video, for some reason when I tried to film doing this, instead I took a picture. I had the camera set on the wrong thing. So unfortunately I lost all that footage. So what I'll do is I'll just show you real quick what we had to do to get this generator to run again. So this generator belongs to the high school band, same one I'm building the carts for and built the drum cart for. And they use it to power their mixing board and everything when they're doing their performances for competition. And it's a really good generator. It's been a good generator. That I know of, they've had it for about 5 years. So the problem is they had ethanol, regular ethanol gas in their can and in this generator. I didn't know that. So when they got done with competition last year, which was the end of October, they put this thing in the trailer, which they use for storage there at the school, and the gas can, and promptly forgot about it until about 5 days ago when they busted it out and tried to use it. Well, of course, as you know, with ethanol gas, it turns into liquid crap that nothing runs good on. So they tried using it, they filled it up with that gas, and let me tell you, it smelled terrible. As soon as I pulled the cap off of this, I knew exactly what was wrong with it. So basically what I did is I brought it here, I dumped the fuel out of the tank, which is real easy. You take the cap off, flip the thing over, dump all the fuel out. Now it would run, kind of, but what they had to do, they'd finally get it to start, and they were running it with the choke about halfway on, and it would put along and give them enough juice, but then it would cut off on them. And what would happen is this eco throttle would kick on and it idled down, and then it'd die on them because that fuel's not worth a damn. So we dumped the fuel out. I put fresh fuel, non-ethanol, with a bunch of seafoam in it in the tank. The other thing that happened is, because they ran it with the choke half on trying to keep it running, then the spark plug got all fouled up. So we changed the spark plug in it. So you pull this little cover off, and right down in here is the spark plug. Just pull that boot off just like a regular spark plug and unscrew it. It's a 5/8 spark plug. So I put a new spark plug in it, NKG, same kind that was in it from the factory. And then also, since as long as they've had this, I have not known that they ever changed the oil in it. We changed the oil in it. So in order to change the oil in it, you unscrew this little screw right here. Pull this cover off. So right here is your oil dipstick where you check your oil. Well, as you can see, they've got a little spout on it and then a little trough here. This is also where you change your oil. So pull that out and then basically just tilt this over on its side with a bucket underneath it and drain the oil out of it. And let me tell you, that oil, one, because they were running it with the choke half on, it was slam full of fuel, or what passes for ethanol, diluted and everything. So we went ahead and changed that oil, put some new oil in it, and cleaned the air filter off. It wasn't really dirty. This thing does not get used in a dirty environment. Filled it back up with good fuel, and then I cranked it up and let it run for about an hour and a half with a light plugged into it to give it a little bit of load, and it's good to go now. It'll crank right up and run great. So that's what we did with this, and I apologize for not getting it on video, but it's pretty easy to understand. So now we will cut to the video of the rest of the video yesterday of changing the oil in my wife's 2020 Colorado. And you'll notice that in that video I might seem a little bit flustered, but that's because I've already realized that I didn't record any of the video of this, and it was about 100 degrees. I'd worked all day at work, came home, worked on this, and then was changing the oil, so I was pretty tired by then. So now, through the magic of video, we'll cut to yesterday evening changing the oil in the 2020 Colorado. How y'all doing this afternoon? It is hot. It's been hot all day, and we're going to change the oil in this Colorado here. This is a 2020 Chevy Colorado V6, what my wife drives. So let me get the ramps under the front wheels. Well, that was better the second time. All right, let me go gather up some tools and stuff, and we'll get this party started. All right, to do an oil change on these, this is the V6 here. You're gonna need an oil drain pan. Underneath the truck, you're gonna need a 15mm wrench for the drain plug. And then under the hood, you're going to need a 15/16 socket and a long extension and a ratchet to get the top of the ridiculous oil filter off, because for some reason, well, I know why, it's because of environmentalists, instead of having the nice easy spin off oil filter like we used to have underneath where you could just drain it into the drain pan and not make a mess, they saw fit to put the oil filter. Let me see if I can show you where this thing is right off the bat. See if this camera will pick it up. Let me get in here. So right down there is the oil filter cap. Just see it down right there. You take that cap off, and then it's got a cartridge filter in there, which I'll show you when we take that off. But so instead of having the good old-fashioned easy spin-on oil filter, they went that direction. Now, I'm not a fan of cartridge oil filters because they make a mess. But if you're going to do one, at least like Toyota on the RAV4, they used a cartridge oil filter, but they put it on the bottom of the motor so that it's down underneath and you don't make a big mess getting it off. So let's go down here and we'll get set up to try to do some oil changing. Let me adjust this tripod a little bit. See if we can get under here. So the oil drain plug on the Colorado, I'll be right back when the compressor shuts off. So on this Colorado, the oil drain plug is right there where I got the wrench hanging in the side of the oil pan. Comes out the side. And let me show you. See where the wrench is hanging down? And you see where I got the oil pan way over here against the ramp. That's because when you take that plug out, it's going to shoot out of there. It's probably going to hit the ramp just a little bit and then finally go in the pan. Another genius GM job there. And it'll be hot, so let's go on and get it done, because this is lined up. So this is extremely hot right now because, well, it's summer and she just drove home, so you got to be very careful not to burn your fingers on this mess. And of course it starts leaking. So see that? No matter what you do, it gets on the floor, but it won't get as much on the floor if you put the pan in the right spot. If you put the pan right under the drain plug, well, it's going to go everywhere but in the pan. Anyways, as the volume gets less, it'll start to pull back, and once you get the pan slid all the way back where it's actually under the drain hole, then you can just let it sit there, and we'll let that drain while we take care of some other maintenance. So let's go do that. So this 2020 Colorado, for some reason, manufacturers have decided they don't want to put dipsticks in for the transmissions anymore, so you can't check that. You can check your antifreeze here. Over here you've got washer fluid, which will fill up in a minute, brake fluid, which we can see is good. So let me go grab a jug of washer fluid while that oil's draining, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got the washer fluid filled up. I know it's orange, that's what color the washer fluid I use is. It's some kind of Rain-X washer fluid. Seems to work pretty good. So now we've got to get this oil filter out of there, and it is down in there. See if I can get this camera set up where you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Yep. And I need my light so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I'm hoping you'll be able to see this, but if not, I'll show it to you when I get it up out of the hole. But you got to take this long extension and fish it down in here and get that 15/16 socket on top of that plastic cover. And it's not tight because it's plastic, but then you gotta just spin that thing off and you'll get to a point. It's got an O-ring on it, so once you've cleared the O-ring, then it's real easy to turn. I wonder how badly I'm going to burn myself trying to get this out of here. Not too bad, it would seem. Okay, we are loose. So now we've got to pull this up out of here, and it will have the oil filter attached to it, and you can see there's not a lot of room, and there's our oil filter. So as you're pulling that up out of there, of course it gets oil all over everything it touches, but there's not much you can do about that. So we'll come over here to the table, and we've got that. And we've got our new oil filter, which is a Wix 5767-4. That's what they look like when they're new, and it has the O-rings in there too that you need. So what we're going to do, grab a coffee can, throw this in. Work. Okay, so what you got to do, got your old filter here, it snaps into the top of that lid, so you pull it off and lay it there, take your rag and wipe out the inside of this. And we've got a new O-ring for it right here in this bag that came in it. Pull that out, being careful not to damage it. So that goes with the new one, and we need a screwdriver or something to pop that up out of there. O-ring pick. Alright, so take your pick and pull this old O-ring off. Take your rag, wipe this down, take your new O-ring and put it on there like so. Put it back in its slot where it came from, and then take a little bit of oil and all we're going to do with this is not the oil we put in the truck. This is just going on the O-ring to lube it up so it doesn't get pinched. So we oil that up like that, take our new filter, and it will snap in there just like that. So now what we've got to do is fish that new filter back down in the hole down here and get it back where it goes. And you might be able to see that a little better now, but let's see here. You can see down there, you can see the where that filter goes in that aluminum canister right there. So that's what we're doing. We get it down in there, and then it will screw down in there. So in the meantime, you don't want to smash it, and you don't want to get a bunch of dirt on it, and you don't want to burn yourself like I am right in this second. And you get that started on there and turn it all the way down by hand, and then take your same ratchet and socket, and this is the part that you really gotta be paying attention, because you don't want to start waylaying on this thing. All you want to do is turn it, because where you get it with your hand, you're just at the edge of the O-ring. So now you're pushing that O-ring down in its hole, and when it stops, when it comes up stopped, that's it. Don't go any farther. You don't tighten it, you don't torque it, that's it. If you try to tighten it anymore, all you're going to do is damage that housing. So that is on. We are done with the oil filter. Like I said, I preferred the old way with the oil filter under the truck, where you could just drop it into the drain pan with the rest of the used oil instead of having to handle it a bunch. But I guess that's the world we live in now. I was surprised when Chevy went to that system, but what can you do? So we got our old oil filter there. That'll go in the trash can. And just so you know, it's not going to landfill. It's going in my burn trash. Alright. So now that we got that done, we can go up back under the truck. We're going to put the drain plug back in and tighten it, and then put some oil in this bad boy. So let's get this set up here and see. Let's put our drain plug back in. My rubber O-ring gasket on this drain plug is still good, so I'm not going to swap it, but I do keep spares. And we'll tighten that down, and again, the torque on this thing is very, very minimal. You do not want to strip out the threads in this aluminum oil pan. Let me grab a rag real quick. Wipe all this down. You don't want oil dripping around there. And then we can pull our oil pan full of oil out. And you can see right there all the oil on the floor. One of these days I'm going to remember to just lay a towel down under this thing, because no matter where you put the oil pan, if you put the oil pan all the way at the wheel, you get a little splash on the floor like that. If you put the oil pan over here under the drain plug, then all the oil will go on the floor over here. So one of these days I'll remember to lay some rags down there where that splash of oil is when I do this, and we won't have that problem. If you're paying attention, then you'll remember to put some rags down, and you won't have that problem either. All right. So, that's done. And let me give you a real helpful tip. What I do with this oil is once I put the new oil in it, I take this old oil and I put it in the can or the jug that the new oil is in. That way I can take it to the recycle place or use it to burn trash or what have you. So now we're ready to put oil back in. So the oil goes in here, and we need a funnel. I think this one will fit it. Yes, kind of, sort of, but not really. Try the other one. Ah, that's a winner. And this truck takes 5W30, and I use Mobil 1 Extended Performance, because this thing, I go by the oil change indicator on the dash, and this thing will go 5,000 plus miles between oil changes. So because I don't have to change it as often, I want to try to give it the best stuff I can. So we'll pour the, as we nickname these at work, the 5-quart gallon in here. And I can't remember if this motor, some motors I have to add an extra quart after we put 5 quarts in them, and some I don't, and I can't remember if this is one of them or not, but we'll know once we get it fired up. We get it off of these ramps and a level again. Alright, so we got the oil in there. That's 5 quarts. Then we start the fun process here of getting the oil from the drain pan back into the jug. That's always pretty fun. This drain pan is pretty dang full, so I'm thinking that this might be one of the vehicles I got to put the extra quart in, but the important thing here, if you don't want to make a big mess, is to not get in a hurry. Just let it pour in nice and slow, because if you get in a hurry, you'll get this oil all over the place. We'll know here in a minute if we fill this jug up. But I've got some extra quarts, so be right back. Alright, well, that was more oil than that can would hold, so we got another one. We got our mess cleaned up. We got the last of it draining in this other jug. The oil's in, so now we'll back it down off of the ramps, and that will fill the oil filter up and get us at the right level. So that's the little splash of oil that gets on the floor. It's not that big a deal. I just throw a couple of rags on it, and it'll soak it up overnight, and then tomorrow it'll be done. It'll be good. Alright, so now that we've run it, we filled the oil filter up. Now if you check your air filter, it's in here. You got to take these Phillips screws off and pop it off, but I changed that the last time, so I know I don't need to this time. So let me check the oil real quick. Yeah, it still needs a quart. I figured as much. So while we're letting that drain in there, I'm going to get my air chuck, check the air in all the tires. Recheck the oil. So it's actually 1.5 quarts to get it full. I kind of thought so. And that's it. These trucks do not have, or at least this one does not have any grease fittings on it. It doesn't have a transmission dipstick. You can't check the transmission unless you put it on a lift. So that's pretty much it for the oil change. You got the filter, drop your oil, put your new oil in, fill the washer fluid, check the brake fluid, antifreeze. You'd replace your air filter if you needed to, but I know I did it last time, so this one's good. And that's it. We drop the hood, and she's done. So there's one other thing we got to do, and that's reset the computer. And it's not that hard to do. So what we got to do is crank it up. And you can see the screen there. You got over here, you got buttons that control it. So this menu button, and you see remaining oil life 8%, check mark to reset. So we hit our button on the outside and then turn our knob to yes, and we're now back at 100% and good to go. So that's it. That is all there is to it. And it's a good thing we finished, because now the rain's coming. That's lovely. Now, tomorrow, it'll be in the high 90s and 100% humidity. Awesome. So that's it for changing oil in 2020 Colorado. Hopefully this video has helped you out. If it has, give us a like, subscribe. We appreciate all y'all supporting, and we'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a good one.